You're looking at radiation. Unstable atoms changing from one element to another, shooting off tiny pieces of themselves in the process. Every once in a while, you'll see one of these, an alpha particle, a type of radiation so powerful that a single one can tear apart DNA. And harnessing that power may soon revolutionize the way we treat cancer. Cancer research often feels like a parade of so-called miracle cures that fail to materialize, disappearing into the background. But every now and then, we see results so exciting, so promising, that they capture our attention and hold it. Breakthroughs that, even though they're early, individual, small sparks, have us dreaming of the fires they might become. This is the story of one of those sparks. This patient, who we'll call Peter, is a German man in his 70s with stage 4 terminal prostate cancer. A PET scan of a healthy patient looks something like this. This was Peter's scan.
So the initial picture, you could see this one patient just riddled with metastatic tumors all over their body.
Several weeks to months away from death.
We've all seen scans like that where you're looking at a patient and you're thinking, well, that guy should definitely be working on his last will and testament.
In Germany, if doctors have attempted everything else, they're allowed to give terminal patients unproven treatments to try and save their lives. And so, in 2015, Peter received a brand new, untested drug, which contained an incredibly rare radioactive isotope called Actinium-225. 8 months later,
and all of the small tumors had disappeared.
It's very rare to see complete remissions in this type of cancer.
Hardly any treatments are that effective.
But there's a catch. Actinium-225 is extremely rare. Each year, the world only produces the weight of a few grains of sand. At a particle accelerator in Vancouver, Canada, scientists are working on a way to change that. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. We've been treating cancer for over a century, first with surgery and radiation, and later with chemotherapy as well. However, both radiation and chemo damage healthy cells as well as the cancerous ones. The drug Peter received in Germany was different. It was targeted.
Targeted alpha therapy is a form of cancer treatment where we attach a radioactive atom onto a biological molecule that selectively seeks out and binds only to cancerous cells.
You can think of targeted alpha therapy as injecting trillions of tiny torpedoes into your body. Each molecule circulates, looking for a certain target, a target only found on cancer cells. And when it finds one, it latches on. And the warhead, radioactive Actinium-225, decays in a microscopic explosion, transforming into a new isotope and releasing DNA-shredding alpha particles into the cancer cell.
If you can get an alpha particle into a cancer cell, you will kill it.
Many isotopes emit alpha particles, but some leave behind poisonous byproducts, or can't be attached to a drug, or decay before they reach a cancer cell. Actinium-225 is the Goldilocks isotope. It's just right, except for one thing.
The main challenge is really the availability of the radioactive isotope. For example, for some studies in Europe, they've had to use most of the available supply that was there in Europe to do just a few patients.
So using the entire global supply, that's roughly, 1,700 patients per year.
And that's only prostate cancer. If actinium was more abundant, researchers could develop molecules that can deliver it to other types of cancers too.
For skin cancer, melanoma, for example, they could be used for breast cancer, blood cancers, and so on.
2 years after treatment, Peter was still alive. And of the 40 patients that followed him, so far half were still alive at their 1-year check-in. Because of these results, laboratories all over the world are putting what little actinium we have to as much use as they can squeeze out of it. Early reports out of Pretoria, South Africa, indicate 50 out of 58 patients treated have their cancer under control or in remission. These patients' recoveries are astounding, but everyone working on this is saying the same thing. We need more actinium.
Right now, most of the actinium-225 in the world comes from the decay of nuclear weapons material produced in the 50s and the 60s.
So they extract the actinium from these vats of nuclear waste.
The world is looking for a cleaner and better way of making actinium.
The solution to this might just be a nuclear physics laboratory in Vancouver, Canada.
The other way to make actinium-225 is by using particle accelerators.
And TRIUMF is home to one of the largest of its kind in the world, the cyclotron.
Right now we're standing above the cyclotron. Even though we're about 30 feet away from the top of the magnet with 20 feet of concrete shielding, we can still see the effects of that magnetic field.
Here, they accelerate protons up to 75% the speed of light to explore the origins of the universe and materials that can only exist for fractions of a second.
There just aren't many places in the world where you could make actinium-225 with this method. Fortunately, TRIUMF is one of them.
At the end of the aisle there, you can see the yellow tower, and that's where the actinium is made.
This is the beam dump, a huge block of aluminum that safely absorbs the leftover proton beam. When TRIUMF was designed 50 years ago, the idea of targeted alpha therapy hadn't crossed anyone's mind.
Really, it was quite coincidental.
Paul came back to TRIUMF and he said he happened to be walking by a group of our accelerator engineers, and they kind of caught his eye because he had a spreadsheet that was spread out in front of them that was filled with all of this data. And Paul said, well, what is that? And they said, oh, well, this is what's in the beam dump. And Paul said, is there any actinium in there? And they said, oh yeah, lots.
To make actinium, we irradiate a piece of thorium metal with trillions of protons. When that proton hits the thorium nucleus, we are blasting it apart into pretty much every element or isotope lighter than thorium.
Alchemy is what I like to call it, where we convert one element into another on a particle accelerator.
So we take it down in our radiochemistry labs in the basement.
That allows us to work with the thorium without getting exposed to any radiation.
Then, it's dissolved in acid to make a sort of radioactive soup. Like a prospector panning for gold, the actinium-225 can be separated from the rest. Once you have pure actinium-225, it can be mixed with the rest of the drug, attaching the warhead to the torpedo.
We have what is on paper the ability to be the world's single largest future source of actinium-225. Even conservatively, we would be able to produce 100 times more than the current annual supply.
But there's still a long way to go. Actinium produced in a particle accelerator hasn't been used in patients yet.
I see patients all the time who ask me about when will this be ready.
Well, I think 5 years, hopefully, we'll be very close to having multiple clinical trials where patients around the world are having this treatment. In 10 years, I hope that it will be starting to be quite a commonplace treatment.
It's important to remember that there haven't been any controlled studies yet. Right now, these are all single examples, flashes of a lighthouse in the distance, showing us the way forward.
We know that this will work. The question is showing it in a way that we will know how much to give, how long to give, which patients benefit most.
And that requires controlled studies. There's just no way around that.
We have yet a lot to learn.
Well, I just lost a friend to esophageal cancer, and I didn't even want to tell him that we had something that might, within about 3 years, have cured him.
It often feels like science moves painfully slowly, especially when the clock is ticking. And that's true. It may be some time before treatments with actinium become routine, but it's not showing any signs of fading out. As early as the results are, it seems like the research around actinium-225 is accelerating. And targeted alpha therapy isn't alone. We are in a golden age of cancer research, with other cutting-edge treatments giving new hope to patients and their loved ones.
I see this really as being an addition to the toolbox. It'll be a very important treatment for prostate cancer and probably other cancers as well moving forward.
I think that this really has the chance to be a therapy that saves people's lives.
The images of Peter's recovery were a spark, one that's showing the researchers spending their careers on this what it could one day become. The next chapter in how we treat cancer.